The Expansion Zone with Sonia Barrett.
Everybody's talking about consciousness. Everybody wants that eternal kiss. Yeah, everyone's saying there's more than this. Everyone wants to follow their own bliss. Talking about one love, one blood, one life in everyone. One life, give each other. We are sisters and brothers. We sing Om
On the Expansion Zone, we examine life and our quest to understand who and what we are and of the vastness of human potentials. We explore the making of our world from quantum physics to parapsychology, health, sociology, and philosophy, along with practical living. You are reminded of the possibilities in creating personal change. So for an hour, we'll stimulate and expand the mind.
Shanti, 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 Shanti. Sing the world, let's do it together. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. It's time to wake up. Shanti, Shanti.
Well, welcome once again to another edition of the Expansion Zone with Sonia Barrett. I'm, of course, your host, Sonia Barrett, and we are in the fund drive, which means that you will still continue to be introduced to new ideas and opportunities for spirit, mind, and body. And I do believe that pushing the envelope is really power. There is so much power there in pushing the envelope because it gives us an opportunity to expand our knowledge base in ways that can only serve to enhance and to support the things that we can do for our bodies and our minds. So I do thank you for your continued support, and I'm looking forward to you supporting the show today and the station. So today's quote is, "Happiness is the highest form of health," and that's by the Dalai Lama. So I want to talk about that a little bit more because right now, happiness, boy, that's kind of on the table here with people trying to be happy. Today's topic is going to be the miracle molecule ESS60. We're going to talk about vitality and sleep and immunity, and all of these things as it relates to this miracle molecule. As you're going to find out, there's so much that is possible with this. And who best but our guest, inventor Chris Burres. He will be talking about this miracle molecule and then some. So there's a lot of great information that's going to be shared here today. So as far as happiness is the highest form of health. Well, happiness is definitely key, as there is so much evidence that shows the impact of our minds, our emotions, and our feelings, what they have on the overall health of the body. And I think we need to look at that even more as individuals. So in our talk today with our guest, we will hear about a breakthrough molecule, as I said, that will assist in adding both an internal and external pep in your step, particularly right now. And the more information that we can actually have is the closer we can be to some form of happiness, so that we're not just bathing in fear all the time, fear and panic and stress. It's very hard to experience happiness when that's where we're living on a daily basis. But the more knowledge we have is the better we can support ourselves with different things, different tools, different behaviors, different habits, all of that great stuff. So the bio on my guest today, Chris Burres. Chris Burres is a research engineer and scientist whose primary mission is to help people live longer, healthier, pain-free lives. Burres has a diverse background in the field of inventions and manufacturing, with a BS in mechanical engineering from University of Houston, University of Houston. Burres is a co-inventor of patents related to the use of explosives in downhole oil well drilling, a co-inventor of the most efficient fullerene manufacturing equipment in use since 1991, and co-owner of a company that manufactures a unique product containing a Nobel Prize winning molecule that has been shown to extend the lifespan of test subjects by 90%. That's amazing stuff right there, because that's what everybody wants. At the end of the day, everybody wants to be able to live a healthy, long life. So, Chris, without further ado, welcome to the expansion zone.
Sonia, thank you so much for having me today. I'm excited to be here, and you mentioned one. I like the quote: "Happiness is the highest form of health." I think one of the great ways to get to health is actually through sleep. It's an incredible restorative and healing mode of health, and so I'm excited to be talking about that today.
Yes, very good. Yes, because it is about how poor sleep, stress, and anxiety, which is, I think, one of the things that you had said the last time, lowers the immune system. And so, having you talk to us now about some breakthroughs and ways to bring the body back to ease right now is so very important. So, Chris, where can we begin in terms of just the overall, what you've discovered with this ESS60, but just in the broad sense as well?
Well, yeah. Well, let's start with the actual discovery, right? That's a great place to start. Actually, in my head, The Sound of Music, "Let's Start from the Very Beginning" is playing for
That's
some
one
reason.
of, I love that show. That's like I've watched it a million times probably.
It's my favorite movie. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I remember watching it every year with my family, because back in the days when we had 3 channels only.
Yes, I remember.
Right, it came on once a year, and we got to stay up late to watch it. So
Good memories.
starting from the very beginning, the molecule ESS60 was discovered in 1985 by 3 scientists: Dr. Smalley, Dr. Croto, and Dr. Curl, here in Houston, actually, at Rice University. They discovered this molecule in 1985 and 1996. By 1996, they won the Nobel Prize for this discovery because it was such an amazing discovery. What they discovered was the 3rd form of carbon. So we're all familiar with diamond, we're familiar with graphite, and they discovered this 3rd form of carbon called fullerenes. The most abundant fullerene has 60 carbon atoms in it, and there's a bunch of other fullerenes with 70 and 84 on up, but that most abundant one has 60 carbon atoms in it, and the shape of it is really important, so let's spend a little time talking about the shape. If you imagine a soccer ball, the lines on the soccer ball represent the bonds between the carbon atoms. So you have a spherical molecule of 60 carbon atoms. And it's big enough that any atom on the periodic chart will fit inside of it. And because of that feature, there's a new symbol in chemistry. So you can imagine anything that's going to add a new symbol to the kind of the language of chemistry is obviously Nobel Prize worthy, and they did win the Nobel Prize. The new symbol is the @ symbol, and we're familiar with that with our email addresses. In chemistry, lanthanum at C60 means that lanthanum is physically trapped inside of this spherical soccer ball shaped cage. It's not ionically bonded or covalently bonded. It's physically trapped inside of it. So one of the unique features of this molecule is the first closed cage molecule to ever be discovered. The shape in itself actually has an incredible value. So it's got 6-fold symmetry. That symmetry gives it a lot of resilience. So you can actually fire one of these molecules, at ESS60 molecules, at a plate of steel at like 15,000 miles an hour. Most molecules would just shred apart. You can kind of picture the soccer ball molecule kind of deforming and then bouncing right back. So it's a really amazing molecule. That's why they won the Nobel Prize. It's got an amazing collection of capabilities. I like to say that it performs as well or better than the current best material in almost every application. So it makes better tires and better paint and better batteries and better photocells. And the problem, the only reason that we're not using it everywhere is it's actually very expensive and very difficult to make. And then you have to isolate it, which is kind of a further step that keeps it pretty expensive. Because it had all these amazing properties, they won the Nobel Prize, and we thought as a scientific community that more people would be working with this molecule by now. Anytime you have lots of people working with a molecule, you have to understand the toxicity of the molecule. And for various reasons, they thought that this molecule, this ESS60 molecule, would be toxic. So they did this toxicity study. They actually did it out of the University of Paris. In 2012, they published the results of this toxicity study. In that study, they gave rats water, rats olive oil, and then rats olive oil with the ESS60 molecule. Instead of it being toxic, those rats that they gave, really it's the MyVitalC formula to, those rats lived 90% longer than the control group. Now, if that sounds like a lot, it is. It's an amazing a lot because it's the single longest longevity experiment on mammals known to man. Not only did those rats live 90% longer, in this case, in this study, it was a Wistar rat. And Wistar rats live about 32 months. And they have a known amount of tumors in their body. So the longer they live, each day they live, they have a larger tumor mass in their body. Even though the MyVitalC rats lived 90% longer, none of them had any tumors. So there's two really amazing results in this one particular study. Again, published in 2012 out of the University of Paris, and it was a peer-reviewed study. So that's really kind of the long and short, maybe the longer of kind of why we're here having our conversation today.
Wow. There is so much there in terms of the discovery, in terms of where where this eventually was taken. Now, can we get further into probably discussing there's some major differences here in terms of what should I say, for ingestion, as opposed to what is it?
Industrial applications.
Industrial. That's the word I'm thinking of. That's the big word, industrial application. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So in that initial discovery, you've got these 60 carbon atoms, and really is carbon 60. And we make the distinction between ESS60 and carbon 60, because carbon 60 is for industrial applications. And there's actually peer-reviewed published research that shows that carbon 60, when improperly processed, is harmful. ESS60 is C60 that's been processed for safer human consumption. So it's really something that we've kind of presented into the industry, and it's been well received to help keep anybody who's interested in consuming this molecule to help keep them safe. So it's a really important thing, and thank you for bringing that up.
Yes, absolutely. Because sometimes people hear things maybe on other shows, or maybe just overhearing conversation. We don't hear the entire thing, and then there is some confusion.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to talk about that. So can we go further into talking about the benefits, and also how this is prepared, and this olive oil base cocktail blend? If you want to talk about those things, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, what I'll start with is, in 2012, they released the results of this particular study, and they are fantastic results. In fact, the next best way to live longer and it actually has more research behind it. But the next best way is calorie restriction. And I call it the starve yourself 1/3 to death diet. And there's really good research that shows if you consume 2/3 of the calories or 1/3 less of your standard, what you're supposed to be consuming, you can live 30% longer. And now I don't know if it's a bad marketing or what, but not many people are signing up for the starve yourself 1/3 to death diet. Maybe they need to hire a PR firm. But again, that's only a 30% increase, right? And that's, again, also peer-reviewed published research where those rats that were given the ESS60 molecule really did live 90% longer, out to 62 months, as opposed to a typical Wistar rat, which is at 32 months. So that's really important. That came out in 2012. And you have to think about me. By mid 2013, we started getting phone calls and people were like, hey, how much in a dose? And you got to picture me. I'm a geeky scientist. I've got my carbon nanomaterial scientist hat, and somebody just asked me how much they should be putting in their body. And my first reaction, and let me just tell you my reaction, then I can talk about the research that existed at that time. But my first reaction was, dose? Wait a minute. You put this in tires and ink and batteries and solar cells. This is not for human consumption. Even back then in 2013, with this study and with a lot of the other research that was out there, it was very clear. C60 for industrial applications, problematic. ESS60, when properly processed, is actually fine. But I'm a conservative scientist. So in 2013, we actually added to our labeling, not for human consumption, and continued to sell this olive oil with ESS60 products so that people could recreate that original rat story. Now, fast forward from mid 2013 all the way really to the end of 2017, we were still getting phone calls, and despite it saying for research purposes only, people were calling us and giving all the benefits that they, not their rats, but that they were getting. and it was amazing. Like, just the testimonials are amazing, and we'll get into those here soon. Obviously, sleep is one of them, because we've kind of broken that out already. It was we spoiled the ending there. Sleep is one of the big ones. But really in 2017, a guy with a big YouTube following started talking about all the benefits he was getting from taking the product on a daily basis. And our phone went from ringing once or twice a week, really to 10, 20 times a day. And so we had to ask ourselves a couple of questions. I'm a carbon nanomaterial scientist. I never really wanted to be in the supplement industry. In fact, I hold a kind of jaded and somewhat negative opinion of the supplement industry. Unfortunately, it's proven to be true, and I can talk about that here in a second. But we asked ourselves two questions. So the first question is a moral question, obviously the most important question. Am I comfortable, or are we as a company comfortable selling it? I take it, my wife takes it, everybody on our team here at the company takes it. So yes, I'm comfortable selling it. And then the next thing is the FDA and the FTC, and we're on the right side of both of those organizations. So it was really in early 2018 that we started selling this product in earnest, and really that I started taking it in earnest, and then noticing some benefits. And I'd like to, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that we of course we take it to, as you know, from when you were first on the show. And my husband, who is a frontline worker, really, I mean, so we have it on subscription, so so we get it all the time.
Yep.
And we do know what the difference you feel after you take it, like in a short while after. But anyway, I'll let you continue.
Yeah. We do get interesting testimonials where, like, same day effects. And then we've got one testimonial that I'll share a little bit later about, having been on the product. It's actually from our largest distributor. She was on the product for 3 months and would have debated until she kind of stopped and took stock of her life. What I like to share, though, is just, because a lot of people out there listening to this, we're talking 90% extension of life, or we're talking about no tumors present when there typically are some. And I'm going to slow down a little bit here. First off, I'll give our disclaimer. The FDA has not evaluated our product. It's not intended to treat, diagnose, cure, or prevent any disease. Also, when you're talking about tumor, the fact that no tumors grew in the rats, a lot of people jump immediately like, oh, cancer cure. And no, that is not an appropriate jump to make. There's a big difference between being a cancer preventative and being a cancer cure. So once a cancer has metastasized and you try and start dealing with that metastasized cancer, that's a totally different effort than actually cancer prevention. So things as simple as a good diet. We were talking about this before we got on the air, like a good diet, exercise, good sleep, which we'll also talk about. Those are known cancer preventatives, and that result in that study actually kind of implies that this is another good cancer preventative. Again, the FDA has not evaluated the product, so I'm not selling it as such. I'm just suggesting that report shows that. So these people were originally taking this, and I was not interested in becoming supplement guy because I think there's two ways that people generally get into the supplement business. And again, I'm just sharing this because if you're apprehensive about the story we're telling, let me explain how apprehensive I was, right? Because carbon nanomaterial scientist, there's this amazing result in this industry that I'm a little uncomfortable with. I really think that people get into the supplement industry one of two ways. One of them is people will wake up and decide that they want to be wealthy and decide that they're going to generate their wealth with supplements. And I have no problem with people being wealthy. It's just not how I ended up in this industry. The other is, and I think this is more common, where somebody has some kind of physical challenges, some health challenges of their own, or maybe of a loved one, and they go out and do the research and come up with their own formulations and they solve that problem. And now they want to save the world. Hopefully it doesn't surprise you. I have no problem with people trying to save the world. It's just not how I ended up in this industry. Basically, I've been manufacturing this since 1991, this molecule since 1991. They do this crazy rat study in 2012. The social media guy starts talking about it in 2017. And so I'm just trying to be a good steward to this industry. I just want to share that because I'm as apprehensive as anyone. And I just believe in being transparent and honest. Like, does this work? I'm so happy to hear that it does work for you and your husband. I know it works for me and my wife, but I think that's an important kind of piece of the story. Now, one of the things that we've been dancing around a little bit is, or what are the benefits that people have been sharing and have been experiencing? Anytime I share a testimonial, I can always trace it back to the individual. Usually it's a conversation I've personally had, but I still have a record of that person so we can find them. If it's like a friend of a friend of a friend said this, I won't use that in a testimonial because that's not for me. That's just, I'm a scientist. And a lot of people say anecdotal information you should just ignore entirely. And I always like to say anecdotal information is really step one of the scientific process, right? So in general, you have a hypothesis. Interestingly, with this molecule, the hypothesis was that it was toxic. And then you do some research and then you come up with a conclusion, not toxic, actually extended the life of the rats by 90%. So that first hypothesis is born out of these anecdotal testimonials. So it's an important part of the scientific process. So I can share kind of my testimony, and I still take them with a grain of salt. We do have people, I would say 3 or 4% of the people will take the product and not notice anything. I think that has a lot to do with how good they are at noticing things in their body, right? Like some people are obviously very in tune, right?
Right. It's true. Exactly. They'll say, "Oh, I haven't really noticed anything." But then if you remind them of a pain they had been complaining about for a while, they don't even notice that the pain is gone. So I think that's common.
Yeah. And think about sleep, right? Like I don't know about you, but I think certainly me and a lot of people I know, we can get 1 extra hour sleep tonight and maybe 1 less hour of sleep tomorrow, right? We're not as rigid, frankly, as we should be about sleep. And so if you start taking My Vital C on a Monday and you get like 1 extra hour of sleep that night, and then you have on a Tuesday, 1 extra hour of sleep, and then on a Wednesday, 1 hour extra sleep, like by Thursday, you forgot that the extra hour sleep coincided with you starting to take the product, right? Unless you're really in tune with it. So that's one of the things that we get. In fact, I had given one of our, the lady in the office next door was talking to me one day about, going through some oncology treatment. So she was dealing with some cancer. And I was like, here, just take some bottles. Like I just want to contribute in any way. And so she had a couple of bottles, and I went back to her about 10 days later, and was like, hey, have you really noticed anything? And she kind of embarrassingly, or was a little disappointingly, shared with me, oh, Chris, I haven't really noticed anything. And then I said, well, have you any changes in your sleep? And her eyes got like wide, like Bambi, right? She super wide. She's like, oh, I've actually been posting. I've been waking up at 5:30 and posting on Facebook that I'm wide awake and ready to take on the day, and well rested, right? And so sometimes you got to ask the right questions for people to notice those things in their body.
Yeah, it's something.
Yeah. In my case, I played soccer for 25 years. I had a left knee pain, really, that I had since I quit soccer until really 2018, when I started taking my Vital C on a regular basis. And that knee pain is gone. Like, I don't experience that knee pain. I can talk a little bit about sleep. Now, sleep is our most consistent testimonial. So people take the product in the morning. They report mental focus and energy during the day. And I don't know if you can speak to this, and then better sleep that night. I don't know if that's kind of been your experience.
Yeah, well, for me, sleeping was never really an issue. Yeah, I'm not like a 8 hour sleeper. I don't like need 8 hours of sleep. Some people do. But I did notice a deeper sleep, let's say. But for me, the thing that I really noticed and tested it is when I need to work in the daytime, I'm doing some work. I noticed that when I would go and I would take it, there was a different feeling, like maybe shortly after, I felt even more energized. Now, I'm already an energized person, right? But
Yep.
I would feel a difference in terms of my clarity, in terms of my focus. And the first time that I experienced that, I thought, well, maybe it's just me. You know how you do that. You're like, maybe. And so I did that a couple of times, and then I didn't take it, just to do that, to make sure. And then I took it another time, and then that's when I started to notice. So yeah, so I do go and I grab it sometimes. We're like, okay, well, I do need to, a boost right now, and I do take it. So yes, I notice, but then I'm very sensitive to my body as well. I'm extremely tuned into my body and do pay attention. So
I
yeah.
I think that's really important. And when again, we've gotten testimonials, like, so one video testimonial I got probably about 2 months ago, was a sent a bottle to an influencer, and she made a bunch of videos, and the first video was from the first day. At the end of the day, she was like, I didn't even finish my cup of coffee, right? Which, if it's worth mentioning, it's because that you drink an entire cup of coffee every day. In my case, actually, in the beginning, like 2018, maybe mid 2019, I didn't really have it worked into my routine. And what I knew is, if I was yawning in the middle of the day or something, I could look back and know that I hadn't taken my product in the morning. And so now it's part of my routine, just consistently. And as it relates to sleep, I can kind of embarrassingly tell you historical stories. I used to take 2 naps on Saturdays and Sundays before noon. so I would wake up, my kids are watching cartoons, I'd go lay on the couch, they're all laying on me watching cartoons, and I would fall back asleep. And then I would get up and have some breakfast and fall back asleep. I have not taken naps. Like, I just don't take naps anymore. And you can imagine I get more done, which really goes back to this interesting testimonial. And Gwen is one of our largest distributors here in Houston, and she originally bought the product for her dog, and then noticed such a huge difference in her dog. She's like, maybe I need to take this also. Important to note, there is no chance for placebo effect in the dog, right? The dog doesn't go, oh, I'm taking this oil. Some people like the taste, some people don't like the taste, but I'm taking this oil that tastes different. And actually, it just tastes like olive oil. And therefore, I'm going to feel younger and healthier and, be more active. No, it's no placebo. Either they feel it or they don't feel it. So
Right.
she started taking the product, and about 3 months in, she tells the story. I actually did a video with her, and she tells the story where, had you asked her, she probably would have said, "No, I haven't really noticed anything." But she kind of slowed down and took stock of her life, and she's like, "Well, I can stay up a little bit later, so I'm getting more done. I'm actually waking up a little bit earlier." She said she's never been a morning person, and this is arguably the worst testimonial of any supplement product ever. But she said, "I cleaned my garage." But we all have that project that we kind of know we should do and have never really gotten around to. And that really comes to, hey, are you going to clean the garage or take that nap or those 2 naps before noon? Are you going to clean the garage or are you sit on the couch and, waste some time? And so as a horrible testimonial as I think it is, I think it's also really powerful, because it's a change. It's a change in mental focus. It's a change in the stress and anxiety of
Oh,
life that gets you to
absolutely.
do things. And does she feel happier after cleaning her garage? Absolutely. And
Oh,
like
yeah.
our quote is, happiness is the highest form of health.
Absolutely. And she is very correct about that. Again, I am pretty motivated, but I just know that there is a difference when I take it and my energy just suddenly I am getting more things done and I'm always getting stuff done, but it's just different. It's kind of like this lady was trying to explain. But you're getting things done and there's a flow to it. You're so clear you're moving from one thing to the next. And you're in a happy, I don't want to necessarily say happy mental space, but you are in a balanced mental state. You're not
Yeah.
feeling stressed. You're not so focused on stressful things. You're just more in the zone of getting through each next project. And my husband does take it first thing in the morning when he before he leaves the house. Again, like I said, he's a frontline worker. So before we go to break, what I'd like to do is, can we talk about what this pack that we're going to be offering today? What does that look like, and what people can expect of the pack?
Absolutely. So the product really is just an organic, high quality olive oil with this molecule. Some have called it a miracle molecule. We'll just call it ESS60, and that's it. So 2 simple ingredients. Both of them are naturally occurring, although to be totally open, you can't harvest enough C60 from natural production. You actually do have to make it. One thing to note is that it's not like us making some sort of different chemical that your body makes, and now we've got kind of a synthetic version or a real version. An ESS60 molecule is an ESS60 molecule is an ESS60 molecule. It's 60 carbon atoms. There's no chirality to it, so there's no curves or anything. It's just 60 carbon atoms in the shape of a soccer ball. We sell that oil, and what we realized is sometimes oil is can be problematic because like one drop can drip down the side of a bottle. There's almost no way to avoid that, and then it really just spreads everywhere, and the label doesn't look good. So we came up with this very unique packaging a while back, and it's really ampules, and it's BPA free plastic ampules. So you got a single shot of the product in one little ampule. It's perfect for taking on the go. It's perfect for, just not having to worry about having a
And this is a
teaspoon.
30-day supply too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you get 30 of those ampules, and each one contains 5 millimeters, which is right at 1 teaspoon. And that is the recommended serving size for the product. So it's just super easy. You kind of twist off the top. If you only wanted to take half of one of the servings, you can actually, it's got a little cap, you can put it back on. So you've got these 30 servings of the product of My Vital C in this really nice box. And it comes with a literature to help you kind of understand the product a little bit better. If we haven't done that perfect job in this video, in this audio file.
All right. Okay. So you've heard, I'm telling you, I take it. So it's been a while then since I've been taking it. So this is the Vitality Pack, and this is going to be for a pledge of $175. Vitality Pack, and it's everything that Chris has just described, which is a 30-day supply, and it's the single shots. So we don't have to worry about breaking any bottles or anything like that at this time. But I'm telling you, it is something that it's so well worth trying this. So if you would like to support the show and support the station at this time, 818-985-5735. Again, it's the Vitality Pack, and it's for a pledge of $175. And it's a 30-day supply. Now, what I'm throwing in, besides that, now this it's a pricey product, let me tell you. But what I'm going to be throwing in is download of the book, Health and Inside Job and Outside Business. And it's actually a supplement to my documentary that came out some time ago, The Business of Disease. And so I wanted to throw that in, Health and Inside Job and Outside Business. And it's a chapter written by everybody that was in the film, some incredible people and scientists and so on. And so you get the combination of these two, 818-985-5735. And it's the Vitality Pack for a pledge of $175. You can put it on a credit card. If you need to break it up, split it up, you can do that on your card, make monthly payments if necessary. But do check this out. And again, this is a thank you gift for your support, for your pledging to the station. This $175. You're not selling anything, or you're not buying anything. But really, these are a thank you gift for supporting the station. The Vitality Pack, 818-985-5735. So we're going to go to break. And then when we come back, we're going to continue our conversation, talking a bit more about the immune system and sleep. It's this combination that is really in one way lethal, but at the same time, so very significant to the health of the body and the mind. So stay tuned, and we will be right back after this brief break. And we are back. We're coming to you from KPFK 90.7 FM in Southern California and streaming live at kpfk.org. You are listening to The Expansion Zone with Sonia Barrett, and that's me. And we are speaking with my guest, Chris Burres. We are talking about ESS60, this molecule that's considered a miracle molecule. We've been talking all about it. The power behind this is the experiences that people have had, and my personal experience with it. I can't remember how long ago you were on the show, but anyway, I started it from back then. So it's been a while. So that's the reason why I can give a testimonial. And for my husband with sleep, we both said the same thing. It's a deep sleep that you do experience. So even though you might sleep, I think going into a deeper sleep, because can we talk about that for a second? Because sometimes just because people they sleep, but they don't always get into that REM sleep. They don't always get into that deep sleep.
Yeah, that's a really important topic, and really, as our testimonial. So I wasn't much of a sleep expert. I was a carbon nanomaterial scientist, but as people continue to call us and tell us this most consistent testimonial, taking it in the morning, mental focus and energy during the day, and then better sleep that night, I was like, well, let me dig into okay, how important is sleep? Like, as a society, we do this, I call it hand waving about, oh, sleep is absolutely so important. And you've got to get, 6.5 to 9 hours of what's called sleep opportunity. Well, unless there's something else to do, right? Like, that's kind of how society looks at it. and we're the only species on the planet that will forego sleep for no healthful reason, right? And so I think we do this hand waving, and I was like, let me figure out what really is, what sleep is all about. And actually, the scientific community is still trying to figure out exactly what it's about. And there's a great book called Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. And it's, by the way, it's the scariest book you will ever read about sleep, because it goes in and documents through research, through hard research. Was at a Harvard. I think he's changed universities. What happens to your mental capacity if you don't get enough sleep? What happens to your cardiovascular capacity or health when you don't get enough sleep? For example, we run this experiment every year, twice a year, where it's called daylight savings time, where and a lot of people don't realize this. The day that we add 1 hour of sleep, heart attacks actually decline. And the day that we lose an hour of sleep, heart attacks actually go up. So sleep is important to your cardiovascular health. It's important to your insulin and how you process sugar. For instance, if you go 2 days without sleep and you do a blood glucose test, you'll actually show up as a diabetic, even though the only thing, quote unquote, only thing you're missing is 2 days of sleep. So it's really important for everything. He also talks in that book about the $2 billion sleep aid industry. And these are mostly subscriptions. I can actually give you some kind of other natural products to consider if you're having trouble sleeping. And the $2 billion sleep aid industry, what it does, you take it right before you go to sleep, and it actually knocks you out, right? There's a chemical in your body called adenosine. And as adenosine increases, as it builds up in your body, it increases your desire for sleep. If you have a good regular night's sleep, you wake up in the morning, adenosine has been flushed out of your system, and you don't have that desire for sleep when you wake up. Well, these sleep aids that knock you out do relieve the chemical pressure of adenosine, but they don't allow you to get that REM sleep that you mentioned, Sonia. And there's another type of sleep called NREM sleep. That's the actual sleep you need to heal your body. Right. So it's kind of like, hey, if I hit you over the head and you were unconscious for 8 hours, would your body heal during those 8 hours? Well, there might be some healing related to the concussion that I just gave you, but you certainly wouldn't wake up having experienced the healing sleep that you need. That's what's true with these sleep aids and this $2 billion sleep aid industry. I do wish I had gotten my father off of those a lot sooner. What's interesting is our product you actually take in the morning, and in your case, Sonia, you say kind of in the afternoon if you're feeling a little sluggish. It gives you that mental focus and energy during the day, and then you sleep better that night. There's only a couple of things that I'm aware of that you could do in the morning to positively impact your sleep that night. One of them is exercise. I mean, if you're going to exercise anytime during the day, that's going to be good. But exercise in the morning, or actually just getting yourself exposed to the sunlight, and that really kind of syncs up your circadian rhythm with the rhythm of sunrise and sunset. So those are the only two things that I'm aware of that can positively impact that you do in the morning that can positively impact your sleep that night. And you're right, so very important. In fact, all the testimonials that we get, there's, kind of positive mood testimonials. There's pain relief testimonials. There's actually hair growth testimonials. There's all of these testimonials could be easily explained by just this improvement of sleep.
It's so fascinating. I know. And that's the reason why I wanted to, I'm glad you explained it that way. I think because people can probably, in a way, trivialize, oh, it's just sleep. But because we don't hear enough about the actual science of sleep, like some things that you mentioned here, the actual impact of sleep on the body, that I think it goes by the wayside. If people say, oh yeah, well, I've been getting sick in the evenings or whatever, but they won't really notice that, well, maybe I'm only getting 3 hours of sleep, or my sleep is not a restful sleep. So not realizing how their sleep cycle is actually playing a role in the overall health of their body.
Yeah, I think, if you want to get a picture, like a really good picture of the importance of sleep, first off, every animal on the planet sleeps, right? So it's clearly important. But if you think about us, okay, now we're comfortable in our homes, whether we're in the city or the suburbs or the country, we're comfortable, their doors are locked, and there's really not a problem with being unconscious for 8 hours. But when we were significantly more primitive and we're unconscious for 8 hours and a predator could come and eat us, and we chose, like our biology chooses to sleep anyway, even though it's that dangerous, that's some clue of how important this sleep is, right? And actually, I don't know if you know this, but the Guinness Book of World Records removed the record for the longest time without sleep, because if you just keep going without sleep, you will die. Like a lot of people, oh, it's just sleep. No, no, no. It's like so important,
It's
so important
resetting, it's
to life.
recharging, it's everything. But I think we also have so many TV channels now too.
Yeah.
There's so much to watch. I think that's part of what goes on, because it's like if people can't sleep, oh, they'll go watch something, or they leave the television on in the room as they sleep. So many disruptive things that we do, so many behaviors that we do. But anyway, to really get in on trying this product, I am telling you, you will have a different, well, I guess all kinds of different experiences depending on what you may have going on in your body. You may notice that there's relief of some pains. Maybe it's not major pain. Maybe it's just some certain aches that you have and suddenly it disappeared. You might not notice right off the bat. But anyway, this Vitality Pack is definitely phenomenal. And for a pledge of $175, a 30-day supply of this ESS60 miracle molecule in this olive oil, I am telling you, you want to get in on this, and we want you to support the station. 818-985-5735. So it's a win-win on both sides. You support KPFK, you support my show, and you support yourself with a product, a tool that could possibly be the thing that you need at this time. 818-985-5735. It's the Vitality Pack for a pledge of $175. Put it on a credit card and make monthly payments if you need to do that. And I am including a download of the book Health and Inside Job and Outside Business, which is really a supplement to my documentary film, The Business of Disease. And it has a chapter written in it by everybody in the film. And some of those people that have written a chapter in it is like Dr. Bradley Nelson, Sherry Edwards, Dr. Jacob Lieberman, Dr. Amit Gwazami, Dr. Cloutier Rapai, Dr. Romeo Brooks, Stephen Halpern, and the list goes on. There's just a number of folks, and the information is incredible. So I'm throwing that in. So for a pledge of $175, you get the Vitality Pack for a 30-day supply. And you also get this download rich with information that really kind of comes together with this pack, with this Vitality Pack. 818-985-5735, the Vitality Pack. All right. So we've talked about that. I'm glad we really had this discussion about sleep, because you said a couple of things that I didn't even know. But I will say this too. The mood, that's the word, mood. I noticed there was a little bit of a shift in mood. Now, did I test that also specifically? Yes, I did. Because one particular day is when I noticed that I suddenly was motivated to go to the post office. And I don't like to go to the post
Also,
office.
maybe the worst testimonial for a supplement ever.
I was so motivated, and I watched myself just get it all together, and boom, boom, boom. And I was moving and just going. And I thought, this is interesting. I'm feeling really in a flow. And then I thought about it that I did take the supplement, and then so I tried it other times specifically to test that, where maybe my mood wasn't completely where I'd like it to be, and I'm a pretty even person in terms of my mood. But I personally, for me, I have noticed that. So these are my testimonials are always honest testimonials, because I try everything before I present it. So I just wanted to state that.
Yeah, we do, like, mood is certainly something that we get on a regular basis. I know I have had sent one bottle to an influencer in the UK, and it was she submitted her first video to me, and what she shared in that first video was like, yeah, I'm in the process of quitting smoking. And I was like, had I known you were going to quit smoking, I probably would have said, hey, why don't you quit smoking, and then we can see what, because I was convinced from that first video when she said that, they're like, how am I going to get a positive testimonial from somebody who's in the middle of quitting smoking? That doesn't even seem possible. And it turns out like she had a positive experience on it. And one of the phrases that she used was, I have a longer fuse with my children, right? And children, love them. I've actually got twins, 10-year-old twins, and they can drive me crazy and cause my fuse to be shorter. That goes to mood. Like, what is the mood you're in? And it can also be explained by sleep. Like, if we're just, hey, let's just rest it on the shoulders of sleep. If you got a better night's sleep, you're better able to manage your emotions. I think we talked about that when we were on your show before. And so if that's all that's happening is better night's sleep, then yeah, your mood's enhanced. You have better ability to manage those challenging emotional situations throughout the day.
And also when we talk about life, life extension or life expansion or any of that, now that you've put it in this sleep into a more what should I say, you put it out there, so I think people may have an even bigger understanding as to what's going on in the body. You can see how not having enough sleep is affecting how people age to begin with, because it's throwing off the entire body. That one thing that we sort of trivialize, sleep, the whole body is thrown off because, let's face it, there's a changing of the guards with serotonin and melatonin and all the neurotransmitters, and there is so much chemical processing that's going on in the body. And if we're not getting enough sleep, it's going to throw everything off, which then is going to affect our cells and, just all of those things that add stress. So I can see how it would cause such an impact in terms of, aging and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important. And it's interesting you mentioned life extension, right? So the solid research that we have, peer-reviewed published research is about life extension. And you may have noticed that I don't talk too much about that in terms of kind of testimonials or even kind of potential goals for the product. One, in terms of testimonials, like how do you know? If the average person lives 90% longer than the average person today, then they're going to live to about 152 on average, right? So we won't know that kind of impact for a while. The other thing that the reason I don't talk about life extension very much is because I actually have a lot of conversations with people where I'm talking about the results in the study and the rats live 90% longer, and people started taking it. And a lot of people will say, well, I don't want to live 90% longer. And I'm like, well, that's interesting. I've always wanted to live longer for whatever reason. But then I ask them, if you had the same mental capacity that you do today, and you have the same physical capacity that you do today, would you then like to live longer? And it's not everyone. I think there's some people who really do need to kind of reevaluate their life, because under those circumstances, I feel like everyone should say, but as a society, we equate really old age with being infirmed, right? Like,
Yes.
and I kind of joke in that original study out of Paris, there were no notes on the research that those rats that lived 90% longer were walking around with little walkers and carrying little oxygen tanks, right? They lived healthy rat lives, except that they were 90% longer. So it really is interesting, what people's interpretations of living longer really mean. And there's a big movement into kind of longevity and living longer. Dave Asprey with Bulletproof Coffee, is hoping to live significantly longer. I think into his 150s. There's probably one of the leaders. He wrote a book called Lifespan, Dr. David Sinclair. And he's been working on this problem, the problem of extending life and reducing the negative impact of old age. And he's got some really positive things to say. And then there's another one, was actually on his podcast, Dr. Gundry. He's got the longevity paradox. And I love his phrase. He says, I want you to die young at a very old age.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So having that health and vitality, like the pack that we're giving as part of a donation to KPFK, having that vitality and living longer, they really need to go hand in hand. If we're just talking about, live longer and be old and infirmed, that which is our expectation, then I'm also not interested in that. But if it is that health and vitality and living longer, then count me in. It's the opposite of the starve yourself 1/3 to diet. Is like, how quickly can I sign up for that other program?
Right. Absolutely. I mean, this is all about changing perceptions and behavior. And this is the whole other conversation I could have. Much of my work centers around that idea of human beings living much longer. And the science is out there really that's saying that 120 is going to be the average at some point. And I think we need to really understand that human beings, we continue to grow, we continue to expand, we continue to learn more about our environment and ourselves. We continue to learn about what is possible. And so that is a possibility. And so it's not all about, your certain age and you're broken down. No, this is why we do these shows. This is why we're talking about these things, is to help people to get the tools, not just the tools, but also a change in mindset, change in perception. Much of life is based on what we perceive and what we understand. So without knowledge, you would say you shall surely die. But yes, knowledge is powerful. So again, this is the Vitality Pack, and it's for a pledge of $175. It's the ESS60 in olive oil, this 30-day supply, single shots. Give it a try. And I'm throwing in Health and Inside Job and Outside Business, an instant download of my book that has all these wonderful people in it from my film, The Business of Disease. And so 818-985-5735 is a number to call, 818-985-5735, the Vitality Pack. Get off the fear, get off of all of that. Let's just try to figure out what can we do for ourselves as individuals. This is where we have to go. And this is why this show and other shows like it are here to support a new thought, new idea, and reliance on self by being more educated. So the Vitality Pack, a pledge of $175, 818-985-5735. And we are actually down to the minute now. So is there anything else that you would like to throw in, Chris? Any last thought?
Well, I just like to share with you, I couldn't be happier that you and your husband are getting great results. We do get that testimonial regularly with our product. And I just wanted to thank you for allowing me to kind of contribute to the KPFK kind of drive here. I'm happy to do that. And thank you for providing a place to voice and share with people the results of this interesting research.
Oh, thank you so much for being part of this as well and sharing your knowledge with our audience, your knowledge and your product. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. Thank you to the listeners as well. And thank you to our engineer, D'Angelo Jones. Also visit theexpansionzone.com for the archive of this show and other shows. And also subscribe to the newsletter. Subscribe to your YouTube channel as well. And I think that's kind of basically it. If you want to find out more about me, do visit therealsoniabarrett.com. Now, I'm going to remind you just one more time before I close out. 818-985-5735 is the number, and it is the Vitality Pack. Please support the show during this show airing. It's always best if you can do that. Call in, pledge. And you don't just have to pledge on this pack. If you just want to pledge, just pledge. If you don't want anything, that's fine too. But this is a gift of information and possibilities for supporting and enhancing your life and health. All right, as always, I like to remind you to live life to its fullest and question everything. Until next time, see you then.